Hi everyone, welcome to week 7. I'm sorry the shadows in my office are going insane. I normally don't record this late in the day, and so for some reason I look like I'm in a film noir, Hitchcockian movie. So does that look better? Uh, you know, I feel like I'm going to stay in the shadows right here. Let you see Han Solo. Um, so I wanted to kind of just go over the play a little bit in terms of like things not to do. And again, these rules are not so much designed to like you have to follow them because they're these arbitrary rules that we've come up with and you just got to do them for this play. Really, the reason why there are these rules is to kind of help protect you as the writer, not do something like underdevelop a character or kind of, lose your focus by writing too much or something like this. So let's go over them and I'll kind of give some insider background as to why we want you to do these things. So, number one, and I'm looking at the prompt right now. So, keep your play short. So, remember, this is 10 minutes, right? And so, that's actually not that much. They always say in film, I think the kind of accepted translation is about a page a minute. And I think that holds true for drama as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. That you got to kind of stick to this window to kind of create something kind of like the going back to what we talked about earlier in the class about flash fiction. So it's like part of the great fun and hardness of this is the how making this condense. All right, so when you're thinking about setting, you only have one setting, right? And so, because of that, you have to really pick the setting for a particular reason. So, one of the things I would do is focus on the ending of something. And so that if you're focusing on the ending of something, you can just kind of be focused on this one setting and focusing it on, the ending of it. So, and that's what the play is about. So, for instance, you might look at something like Hamlet, and I would, if I were going to be writing this 10-minute thing, looking at the fencing duel at the end. So, I think, focusing on here's one setting, one small group of characters, focusing on their relationships, go. Another example would be kind of, I was thinking of Reservoir Dogs actually, if you've ever seen this. Um, so the scene, when they're in like that garage hiding from the police would be a good example. It's a lot longer, obviously, because they're in there for a while. But that would be a good example of what we're sort of talking about in terms of like one scene and people interacting and the history shared between them. Now, terms of characters, less is more. Okay, this is something that the flash fiction was not this big of an issue with, but in terms of the creative nonfiction, this was a huge problem with, where people would have too many characters that were underdeveloped, underdrawn, that didn't need to be in this story. Now, with creative nonfiction, the sort of everyone wants to reproduce things exactly, not realizing that you can cut certain people from the story. Especially people who don't matter to the plot or development of the characters. So the thing here is that's why we have a limit on the amount of characters you can have. Think of you don't have that much space in terms of your real estate here, so that if you're filling it up with all these different characters, we're not going to get to know any of the characters. So personally, I would focus on maybe one or two. That would give you the ability to do some monologues, some soliloquies, do some of those fun things that we talked about earlier, and really focus on digging into who these people are, what their conflict is, why are they here, that sort of thing. Next part, conflict. So go back to our readings on conflict, right? Go look at internal and external conflict and the different types of those types of conflict, right? What is at stake here, right? What is the conflict? So, thinking about Hamlet, right? What's the conflict of Hamlet? Well, I think there's one version of Hamlet where you're looking mainly at the internal conflict that Hamlet is facing, like whether or not to kill the king, to avenge his father, is this even right? Can I do it? That sort of thing. And then there's the, external conflict of, him versus the king, right? And so personally, I think the internal conflict of Hamlet is more both apparent and also present and pressing. So I sort of look at Hamlet as more of an internal conflict type of story. But you need to really define what your story is. There might be internal and external conflict present, but like which one is more predominant, and if it's one or the others, the more predominant, which do we see as part of it in terms of man versus man versus society, that sort of thing. And lastly, describe staging. To go back to Shakespeare, there is no no descriptions hardly ever. And so I think the most famous stage description is a bear exits, I believe. So there's very, very sparse. Whereas if you read some other more modern playwrights, their stage descriptions are a little bit more elaborate and describing what's going on and who the characters are, what are they wearing, that sort of thing. A play that comes to mind is Top Dog, Underdog, which is great and is from memory. It's been a while since I've watched or seen the play, or read or seen the play, but I believe it's all in one location, and so that one is not only good to kind of show you how one location can work, but also it's just two characters talking the whole time. And in the actual play, when you read it, there is some stage description or direction in terms of like what the character, like how they should do this, or maybe even how they should say some things. But it's never really obtrusive, right? So you have to think about it from this perspective. You don't want to maybe make it too much in terms of the direction, but you want to give enough, more than our good buddy Bill Shakespeare. All right, so thank you for watching this video, and I'm looking forward to reading your plays. I'm really excited for this assignment. And don't forget next week that the assignment is going to be due a little early. Part of the reason is we have to get grades in by Sunday. So that means I have to get everything graded by Sunday. So that's why they're due early. Okay? All right. Thank you so much again, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.